Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Menz Insana, a very thin graphic novel published by Vertigo Comics in 1997. It's written by Christopher Fowler. I'm unfamiliar with this guy. Apparently, he's kind of a well-known horror writer from England. And also, according to his little bio, apparently his horror books always involve like lots of dark humor. And he brings a lot of that to this comic. This comic isn't really horror. It's mostly funny. It's almost every page, every word balloon. It's playing for laughs. And I gotta say, it kind of fails on that. On that level. I guess maybe we just don't have the same sense of humor. Some people might find this funny. I found it falling flat a lot. But the saving grace of this is beautiful painted art by British cartoonist John Bolton. This stuff is amazing, as you can tell by the cover. John Bolton is just a singular talent in comics. His work with painting, his color sense, and just his overall illustrative prowess. He's just an amazing artist, and you're going to see that. Every page in this is gorgeous. It's a very thin little graphic novel. I think it's like 48 pages probably. And I believe that it's all in little chapters, like 4 to 5 pages long. And I think it was serialized. It was supposed to be like a serial. It ran in an English magazine, some kind of hip comic magazine. I think it was called Crisis or something. But I don't think they all ran. According to GCD, only the first chapter was in a magazine. And I guess the rest of them they just collected for this book. That's the little end papers there. So right off the bat, we're already seeing John Bolton just being amazing. So this story 1, Mortals and Portals. Now this comic takes place on the mental plane. And this is basically where at least the psyches of all the crazy people in the world, this is where they reside. It's a parallel private world. A land where madness is completely normal, where irrational behavior is the order of the day. To get there, all you have to do is release your hold on sanity. Basically, have a mental meltdown. And now we meet our protagonists, Menz and Jazz. Menz is this weird-looking guy. He's been a guest of the mental plane for so long, he's determined not to recall his former sane life. He's very happy, actually, in this mental plane, being crazy. And Jazz seems almost normal, but try as she might, she cannot remember what happened to drive her to the mental plane. And she kind of wants to know why. It's gnawing at her brain. She has no memory of who she was, and she wants to know. Menz doesn't want to know. He's totally happy here. God, look at this art. This is amazing. I guess the whole thing is called Tales from the Mental Plane, the whole graphic novel in toto. And just to round it off to make it even better, lettering by Tom Warzachowski. So basically all the dialogue here is just like Menz cracking, clever, cute, jokey things all the time. And like I said, it didn't work for me at all. It was just kind of like Christopher Fowler trying to be very clever. And Jazz doesn't have she's more of like just his companion. I mean, they're in love, but he says something funny and she usually just says, "Oh, Jazz." I'm sorry, "Oh, Menz." So it's kind of, I don't know. So they're waiting for the portal between the mental plane and Earth to open up, like normal Earth. I guess every now and then it pops up at this certain spot, and they're waiting for it because they want to go to Earth. Jazz mainly wants to go to Earth. She wants Menz to find his real self, his corporeal form on Earth. He doesn't really want to. He's like, I don't want to, I came here for a reason. I didn't like my life. But she's really into it. Because she loves him so much. She's like, what if your corporeal form is in trouble or whatever? God, look at this illustration here. Just the wrinkles in his shirt. John Bolton totally is, he's a master. So the portal comes, and I like this, how it goes all monochromatic here to show that they're like going through this weird dimensional portal. And now they end up on Earth. I love this, how everything on Earth is kind of painted like a little faded and dingy. And our two protagonists here, they're still like really bright. And well, she's candy colored. She's like really stands out. So I guess when you go to the earthly plane, you only have 1 hour for some reason. So they have an hour to get to this mental institution where Menz's real body is locked up. I love this, how, look, you see how like dingy the background is, and they're just like cartoon characters. It's almost like cell animation. You know, the more realistic backgrounds, and then they're very cartoony. They get to the mental institution, and unfortunately, it took them like 60 minutes to get there. So now they're sucked back to the mental plane. Story 2, let's get normal. We see Menz and Jax watching TV. I like how in, you know, the mental plane, even TV is pretty psycho. The dialogue coming from the set is, "Oh, Dark Lord, spank me with your chainsaw." I want to see that show. Sounds interesting. Sometimes it gets full-on cartoony, like when the television set explodes. I do like how his remote has that button. If you're really sick of the TV, you can just make it blow up. So in this episode, Menz is very bored. God, look at John Bolton is so good at drawing women. And there's so much cheesecake in here. It's kind of odd how there's just all these... I think John Bolton just wanted to draw this sexy woman in various hot poses. So even though this is a comic written for adults, it's definitely, you know, I don't think many kids would get anything out of this until they hit adolescence, and they'd get a lot out of it from jazz. But it's kind of weird how just like cheesecakey it is. So Menz comes up with the idea is, why don't we have one of our neighbors over for drinks? That might, you know, mix things up. Might be interesting. So their neighbor Cowhead comes over. Cowhead's kind of a boorish guy. Starts flirting with Jazz. You know, like checking out her ass when she bends over in front of him. I mean, who wouldn't? Come on. But he's kind of a sleazy jerk, and he's saying all these innuendos to her. And finally, Jazz whispers to Menz. She says, "This guy's horrible. Make him one of your killer cocktails." So he does. He makes this cocktail out of like acid and acetylene. And when they give it to Cowhead, he basically melts. It's so nasty. It makes all these like kind of nasty gaseous noises. Flort. Fropped. You can almost hear like he's like farting his life out. And there he is, just melted, except for his skeleton. Of course, Menz says some cute bon mot, which he constantly does. So once again, it ends with him saying something cute and her saying, "Oh, Menz." He is kind of sweet, though. They really do love each other. And he always says, like here he says, "I'd rather be bored with you than interested with someone else." And often he will also say stuff like, you know, like, "I'd rather be crazy and have you than be sane." So he's pretty happy on the mental plane. He just loves Jazz. She loves him too, but she still wants to know where she comes from. Next we have Big Night Out, story number 3. This is an example of some of this dialogue where, I don't know, it's not that funny to me. She's talking about how you don't really look your age, and he disagrees. He's like, I do. I look pretty bad. He says, it's all right for you. Your mind died while you were still young and gorgeous. Mine went away at 42. She says, that's not old. He says, not if you're a tortoise, a parrot, or a painting. In music industry years, I'm 175. Joan Crawford's final movies are aging better than me. That's just not that funny to me. I do like this, though. This really super cartoony backgrounds. And they're kind of painted, if not realistically, they're painted the way they're shaded and everything. Like, it's almost photorealistic, his Menz's smock or whatever he's wearing. So Menz goes to get a makeover at the salon. And then they decide to go to a nightclub, a swanky nightclub. This bouncer there, it's kind of, he lets Jazz in, of course, instantly. But then he's kind of hassling Menz. And, Menz doesn't look that presentable. It's not like a nightclub would be like, yeah, let that guy in. So, of course, there's lots of jokey dialogue between these two. I love every page of this comic. So this is such a weird thing. So Menz finds this drug dealer. He's offering all this stuff, but he buys this giant pill. It looks like the biggest horse tranquilizer ever made, or an elephant tranquilizer. But he doesn't take it. He just puts it in a slingshot and knocks out the bouncer so he can waltz right into the club. And inside the club, basically they have a good time after saying some cutesy one-liners to each other. Now we have story 4, Trains, Boats, and Insane Planes. So, I mean, this is like, it's just getting full on. Like John Bolton is just making a stroke book out of this comic. It's just like, he's obviously having a good time drawing Jazz. So now they want to go back to Earth. Unfortunately, there's every now and then on the mental plane, when there's weird weather, the rift between Earth and the mental plane, it becomes unstable, and it basically travels around. So it's almost impossible to find it, because every time you get to it, it's moved on to someplace else. So it's rippling through the mental plane at great speed. No one in his right mind would attempt to catch up with it today. Of course, these two are not in their right mind. So there's just like the Mickey Mouse we just looked at with that cow. I can't remember her name. There's a big joke about how much they're packing. I mean, just corny old jokes, kind of. Like, oh my God, they're taking everything with them on this trip. How can it all fit in the bag? So I guess they're going to take various modes of transportation to try to catch up with the rift. First, they get on this train. They get close to the rift. Oh, there's a nice panel with the cuckoo train going past the moon. They get onto the outside the train, and they're going to leap into the portal. But they miss. The portal's too fast for him. God, I love when he really caricatures Menz like this. He makes them full-on cartoony. Or like there. So then they get a taxi. This taxi is driven by a giant ant. His name's Camponotus. He's a carpenter ant. He's really dumb. So there's just lots of dumb jokes. It's pretty hackneyed. Look at that crazy cartooniness, the taxi taking off. It's like Roger Rabbit stuff. So they pull up to the rift, and once again they miss it. They're too slow. So Menz says the only way we're going to catch up to that rift is by air. So there's there's this like TSA agent looking through their bag. He says, I'll have to give you a full body search, miss, he says to Jazz. And when he tries to like search her body, there's a giant bear trap. So there's definitely like Warner Brothers cartoon logic going on in this mental plane. Very like over the top, zany slapstick humor. So they finally catch up to the rift. They jump out of the plane and they end up in the sewer right under the mental institution where Menz's real body is. So that didn't work out. They're stuck there for 60 minutes and then they pop back. So now Menz is like back in the mental plane. He's happy. He's just doing all this stuff for Jazz's benefit. And he's like, oh, we should explore the mental plane instead of going to Earth all the time. So now we kind of get almost like Dante's Inferno. We see all the levels of the mental plane. They get on this elevator. There's this elevator operator named Danny Downer. And the first level we find out is where the mind slaves live. Now these are people that are basically 90% of humans. You know, like all of us, we're pretty sane for the most part. We go to work every day. We slave away for barely any remuneration, enough to pay our rents, and we do it our whole lives. So in a way, that's kind of crazy, right? So basically saying, yeah, this is like just that mundane level of insanity where at the end of your life you realize, I never amounted to anything. I wasted my whole fucking life. That's kind of insane. And so they still have to slave away on this galley ship that is anchored. So they're not even going anywhere. So it's really just this dreary, horrible eternity of existence. Menz kind of implies that that's what he was. Just a drone. He was a pharmacist. He was just a drone, going through every day with no joy. The next level is the land of the lost. This is he describes it as a cerebral suburbia. He says, I guess a lot of marriages end up here. So I think what he's talking about is kind of like level 1, where these people aren't really crazy as we define it, but when you realize that like how many people stay married to people they don't even love anymore, and then at the end of their life they're like, okay, I guess that's it. Saying in a way that's kind of crazy. Third level is for the snappers, the quiet ones who suddenly explode. Loving housewives who one day pour ground glass into their husband's beer. The nerdy postal workers who turn schizo. And then for some reason they meet these weird characters. This is Drips, the inside-out man. He wanted his life to turn out fine, instead he turned out. I don't know. And then the Great Ventricle, a great ventriloquist whose heart attack and mental collapse turned him into a dummy. I don't even understand these things. Christopher Fowler has a weird sense of humor. And by weird, I mean, I don't like it. So now I guess the Danny Downer doesn't want to go any further. He's kind of scared to go to the higher levels, or lower levels, I should say. So now level 4 is the Vale of Tears. Jazz describes it as, above the surface of the waters, a storm rages. Only in the still depths of despair can we truly be safe with our sorrows. And we see them snorkeling. Another character I don't really get, they meet Squid Baby, who tells them, on Earth, I nearly drowned when I fell into a canal. They saved me, but part of my brain died in the water. Now I hold the spirits of all drowned children. He's very cute, but not as cute as Jazz. Oh man, just look at these gorgeous colors. Everything. This art is beautiful to me. I kind of like the thick outlines on Jazz and Men's too. It kind of highlights their, like they're not in our reality. It's very Winsor McKay, very thick outlines, very pronounced. Makes them seem more cartoony. So level 5 is the VIP wing. Celebrity psychos, slashers and stalkers, movie stars, politicians. Jazz says, I saw their TV movies. I don't need to visit them in person. So then they head out. There is some kind of interesting thing going on between Menz and Jazz. Even though I said, I didn't enjoy reading this comic, to be honest, for the most part. It's all about the art for me. And they're kind of having a heavy conversation. And Menz is telling her, like, how the real world isn't that great. Like, how many times in a day was someone trying to sell you something? How many times a day did somebody lie to you and use you? And then how often did someone actually care about you? And Jazz is getting confused, and she doesn't even want to think about it. And she starts crying. And he says, yeah, it hurts to remember, doesn't it? This is why we retreated into madness. We should have, we should be content here. We got each other. But she can't. She has to know. Level 6 is Psychoville. This is beyond mere schizophrenia. These people are no longer reachable. Self-mutilating, self-hating, self-deceiving. And all we see is a bunch of weirdly colored people in straitjackets. I don't know, it's not that interesting. So Jazz is really getting perturbed. She's like, I see too much of myself in these people. She says, you know who I was on Earth, don't you? And he says, yes, I know. He says that he can't tell her. It would spoil everything. She pleads with him. I've asked for nothing from you. Please tell me who I was. He says, stay here. I'm going to go to the last level alone. And this is the last level. It's almost like the big boss in a video game. This is the heart of all madness. Nobody who sees it can ever return to sanity. Here's another one of those kind of sweet lines. She says, I feel frightened without you. Hold me, Menz. He says, sanity is the least of my problems. I'd let go of everything before I let go of you, Jazz. And of course she says, oh, Menz. The best love is like a knife. It cuts through anything. Story 6, The Snow Job. And so Menz is talking about his, his sane, normal life. But not getting into it too specifically. So all of a sudden, everything starts getting really cold in the mental plane. Beyond cold, it's like this frozen cold snap. It turns out that the mental boiler is broken. So there's just a little interlude, trying to be funny and cute. A little squid baby shows up. As Menz crawls into the heating ducts, he says, just as I thought, there's a problem with the old flame. And we actually see this woman who is all like flaming, and also turns out to be an old flame of Menz's. Her name is Ballistica Braithwaite. She looks like that character from Killraven, Volcana Ash or whatever her name was. He says, you were always going out even when I was dating you. And she says, I'm going out now. I guess after he broke up with her, she lost her shit. And And so now she just wants to bring down the mental plane and watch it all freeze. Sorry, guys, I keep getting dumbfounded by this art, how much I love it. It's so good. So he finally goes to the master boiler. Just weird little panels like this, where he says, I need some stairs there would help. And then he's all of a sudden says, thank God for Broadway. I always knew showbiz was the true home of the mentally ill. I don't know, just silly. I do appreciate just how weird it is. And, you know, I love the fact that Vertigo published this. Even by Vertigo standards, this is a really weird graphic novel. It's just, his sense of humor is so lame to me. So I guess he somehow defeats Ballistica. Ballistica also kind of reminds me of like a P. Craig Russell designed character. I.e., it's gorgeous and amazing. And I guess she burns herself. She falls into the boiler and is singed to a crisp. It looks like she dies. Menz says you'll always put the ember and remember, Ballistica. And everything's back to normal. Actually, it's a little too hot in the mental plane now. Next we have Story 7, Home Truths, Part 1. I like this how once again we see the the normal world of the sane, very dingy and gray. It doesn't look that great. So we see these kind of old photographs. It says this is the land of the free, the normal, the rational, the explained. Military camps, supermarkets, multiplexes, guys hanging out, drive-by shootings, cheerleaders, cult headquarters, old folks dead in their apartments. So he's saying that, like, yeah, when you're sane, it's not that great. I mean, drive-by shootings, you'd say, that's crazy. Not really. It's just, it's one gang is greedy and wants to encroach on another gang's territory. There's a rationale behind it. Even cult headquarters, some asshole cult leader wants to take advantage of people. That's just evil. It's not necessarily crazy. Usually the crazy things they spout are all bullshit, just so they can convince people to give them money and have sex with them. So just necessarily being sane, I think he's trying to say, isn't that great? There's a lot of bad things in the sane world. And then for some reason they make this character. This is Betty, the deep fried rabbit. Who flies around in this KFC looking box. So now Jazz is insisting that she wants to go back to the Earth, to the real world, and find out just who the hell she is. So they were at the portal stop. That galley ship from level 1 is flying around now. The Mind Slave ship. Jazz asks, how did it get free? And he says, I released their anchor chain as we left. At least now they're going somewhere. Even if it's only in their heads. So they're on Earth, and they're at the same mental institution they were at before. And of course, Jazz is like, why are we here? And he's like, well, you'll find out. I love this contrast of their thick outlined cartoony forms and a very realistic kind of dingy Earth backgrounds. So they make their way into the mental institution, and Menz says, look into this room. Take a look at me. And there he is. Doesn't look that happy. She says, this is barbaric. We have to get you out of there. And Menz says, read my file first. So his real name was Stanley March. He was a chemist. And apparently he was just a normal, humble little guy and all through his life. And then when his middle ages, this woman named Susan became his assistant, started working there. And Stanley totally fell in love with her. She cruelly spurned him, made fun of him. And And so all those years and decades of rejection, after all of that, he snapped and he strangled her to death. Well, not to death, sorry. He strangled her to within an inch of her life. And then he took poison. The girl didn't die. Susan didn't die. People heard the struggle and took her to the hospital. And he didn't die either. He didn't take enough poison. But it made him even crazier than he already was. They locked him away in that mental institution. Jazz says, and the girl, and you probably have already guessed this. He says, this is the irony. Susan was furious. She thought it wasn't enough justice that he was just put to a mental hospital. She thought he should be executed. So, when he strangled her, there wasn't enough oxygen to her brain. So, she went crazy too. Her brain became defective. He says, the Susan I knew and loved died when I placed my hands around her throat. So he did kill her, in a sense, the woman who was Susan, because Susan isn't the same person anymore. Susan's obsessed with revenge. She was medically trained, she became a nurse, and she became Stanley's nurse. And she basically is there day and night, guarding him, torturing him every day. That's quite a revelation. Jazz is angry as hell. She's like, you knew this all the time? How could this information not hurt me? To discover that the man whose mind I love is being tortured by me on Earth? And then Susan says, stop whining. This is the man who ended your life. Your normal life. He deserves everything I can give him. Of course, Stanley disagrees. He says, she tortures me every day. She should be locked up. And this is implication that she's actually a patient there. That she's actually can't leave either. I guess they just give her free rein to torture poor Stanley. So I was a little confused about that. So Susan starts fighting with her mental self. And so Susan runs back to Stanley, still tied up there. And she says, I'm going to take care of you once and for all. I'm going to kill you with this death machine. And Stanley says, I'll take you with me. And he starts strangling her. So Menz says, oh my God, if they kill each other, we'll cease to exist. We've got to do something. Menz cranks up this little device. I don't know which I love more. It's just like this amazing realistic art. Look at how good this looks. Or like this amazing, mental plane art. I think I like the mental plane art more. It's more imaginative and fun. So when he does this device, all of the characters that we met show up to, I guess, help. And basically what they do is they evacuate the hospital. Over the loudspeaker, they say, get out of here, everyone. And then they blow up the place with dynamite. It looks like Susan and Stanley are almost dead from each other's hand. And then Menz presses the plunger and a giant explosion happens. Like I said, Warner Brothers cartoon logic. They're just kind of dirty. This art here looks so different to me. It doesn't look like John Bolton. Here's another example of, this is the kind of dialogue the whole comic has. Goodness, that was enough to sexually arouse an elderly Canadian. It's like, it's not working, buddy. So all the patients are released, and now it seems like Susan and Stanley have no memory of what happened in their whole life. Stanley's like, where am I? Susan's like, who are you? And they just walk out together. They're freed with all the other patients. Free to mingle with the outside world. So this whole experience seems to have cured Jazz of, wanting to reunite with her body. And she realizes what Menz has already known. That the mental plane is just peachy, especially as long as they have each other. Oh, man. I'm kind of reading these word balloons, and I'm like, is there anything I should repeat to you guys? It's like, no, they're terrible. All the dialogue's dumb. So it says, there's room for everyone in the infinite realms of insanity. A world of pleasure and pain awaits when you stop being normal and start being yourself. And that's the end. We have a little biographies of Christopher Fowler and John Bolton. And they're also kind of written in a cutesy, clever, trying to be funny style. So there you go, guys. Menz Insana, Christopher Fowler and John Bolton. I know if you've seen this, watched the whole episode, you're like, why does this guy have this comic? It sounds like he hates it. And the writing I'm not thrilled with at all. I thought it was a little interesting. It's weird enough to hold my interest. But in my older age, in my later years, I realized it's okay to keep a comic, even if it's terribly written, just for the beautiful art. So, I mean, every now and then I pick this up, just treat it like an art portfolio. You know, just flip through it. Oh, God, it's aesthetically very pleasing to look at this comic. But I don't ever want to read it again. So that's something, the one thing I learned from watching comics kayfabe for years is just realize I used to throw out comics with amazing art just because I was like, this story sucks though, so I'm not going to want to read it again. I'll get rid of it. And I regret it. Some of these comics, they're beautiful art, but the writing was crap. And so I got rid of them, and now I no longer do that. Now sometimes I'll hold on to a comic that I never want to read again just because it's a beautiful, I mean, God, there's 48 beautiful painted pages. It's like a portfolio, like I said. So I don't see why I have to justify myself, but I guess I want to explain, because it did seem like I was poo-pooing on a lot of things about this comic. But it is definitely not getting kicked out of the Academy, thanks to John Bolton's stunning, gorgeous, luscious artwork in here. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.